Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. My name is Adam Sykes, founder of SwiftCase, the professional productivity platform. And today I've got with me
Philip B. To SwiftCase as well.
Okay, great. So as you can see, I'm still in my car and Phil's still in his loft office. And we were just picking up where we left off at the end of the last episode, which we were talking about remote working and how we've obviously, due to coronavirus, we're now in lockdown and we are now working remotely, and how our business always operated a flexible operation. So people were used to working remotely, but how things were different last time. So if you didn't see last time's episode, then give it a watch and see what you think about what we were discussing last time. But I suppose where we got up to was kind of the idea that businesses are being almost forced to come round to this idea that it's not possible to be productive while working from home, and how that people can use tools and technologies. We discussed last time, we discussed Zoom, which we're using to create this video, and also Google Hangouts, which we've been using for chat. Also, there's part of the main sort of core of our business is we use our own system. So there are systems out there like SwiftCase, which we produce, that's what we develop, where people can create workflows and collaborate with each other in order to facilitate things like working from home. So making sure they got their documents in the right place and know who's doing which task. Having an organized, systemized process is probably a key thing about working at home successfully. What do you think about some of the ideas around that?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some really good sort of features that allow us to see what everyone's up to, and it basically allows us to almost recreate those kind of informal conversations that we have in the office. You know, what are you up to? What are you doing? Sort of thing. And you know, we all have this sort of time logging feature where we put in what we've done, how much time we spent on it, and it just means that no one's in the dark about what's going on, what people are doing, what they're available to do. And, you know, there's ways for us to tag each other in notes on tasks and things like that, so that we can sort of say, oh, well, you know, have a quick look at this. So all the kind of normal behaviors that you have in an office where you just quickly kind of give someone an ad hoc sort of description of what you're doing or whatever, all that's now available very easily on our system. So,
yeah.
And I think that's the thing that makes people nervous about working from home, is that they don't have the ability to just almost informally see what people are up to.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses aren't that organized. I think that's probably one of the issues is they work on an ad hoc basis. They do like just go and say, oh,
could you do this?
Hi, how are you getting on with this? Could you just do this for me? Oh, we need to do this today because this has come up, rather than actually knowing what they're going to do, you know, in the short, medium, long term, because they've actually got a plan and it's organized and they know the steps that they've got to take to sort of achieve their objectives. Some businesses don't work like that. So I can see how it would be quite scary to then go, well, I can't do that anymore. All my staff are, you know, remote from me. And certainly from a manager's point of view, whose job is to manage the other staff, who are now no longer, you know, you can't have a meeting with them. You can't go and ask them how they're getting on. You can't see what they're doing. You can see how that would become like, well, how am I going to do my job if I can't speak to my staff? So there are things that they need to do that aren't just around getting the tools. It's more about a way of thinking about their business that they need to get used to, isn't it? They need to think about, well, I'm not going to be able to just drop in on people. So maybe they need to know what they're doing for a longer term. You know, they need to know what they're doing this week and next week, because I'm not going to be able to just go and, can you do this for me? Still obviously going to have communication with them, like we said, email, Google Chat, Zoom, whatever, you know, tools like those. But actually giving people a bit more autonomy to say, well, here's a load of work that needs to be done over the next 2 weeks. Go away and arrange your time yourself. And people can then, you know, can split up their day into whatever work blocks they want to do, or they can do, you know, we've got some members of our team are doing some work at the weekend, aren't they? To kind of spread out how much they need to do through the week, because they want to spend a bit more time with the kids and doing a couple of hours each day, rather than trying to fit in 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday. You can kind of do your work however you want to. work a few nights, work a few mornings, and have your days off. Just fit it in around your schedule, really. So,
Mhm.
you know, life kind of comes before work life balance becomes like a life work balance. Life's put first because obviously people have got a lot of other situations they've got to deal with, like when can they get to the shops, teaching their children, and so on, that kind of needs to be done. And work kind of fits in around that. But people are still productive because they know what tasks they've got to do and they can work out for themselves when to fit those in.
It's interesting how the workday is now, like you were talking about, it's split up into chunks now rather than you have a discrete time of day that you're working and then you have a discrete time of day you're not working. And I think that's scary for some people because they they're so accustomed to that distinction that they might get sort of dizzy from switching from one to the other. But I think a lot of people will find that actually it's quite easy to
Yeah.
compartmentalize it throughout your day. Um, and it's way, way more conducive to a sort of fuller life if you can, rather than see your children say at the beginning of the day when you're most tired, and then the end of the day when you're most tired. You
Yeah.
split it up into these really nice discrete experiences throughout the day, rather than these sort of bookends of the day, and still get just as much work done.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that would apply to a lot of jobs that previously people thought were necessarily packaged up in a 9 to 5.
Yeah. I mean, I think two things I want to pick up on what you've just said. I think the thing about being able to play with your children and do things with your children at a time where it's more conducive to that activity. So the idea that normally, if I stop work at 5 o'clock and then it's going to be tea time pretty much straight away, or pretty soon after bedtime, you might get the chance to like play with them for like 20 minutes or something and then read them a story. But that's really it. Whereas now during this, we've had a few sunny days, been able to play in the garden with the kids for like a whole afternoon. And then instead of watching some rubbish TV at night, I've done some work and like done it then. So there's that. But also from a productivity point of view, it's almost forcing people to switch away from this idea that productivity means a set number of hours worked. And if you work more hours, you've been more productive. Because
Yeah.
that's, I think, is the key fallacy in productivity, isn't it? It's this idea that, especially with people, jobs that do have flexi times, a lot of ones I've seen where you punch in, punch out. The idea is to not how much work you've done, it's how many hours you've punched during a period. And the idea of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or these people who say, no, I work 40 hours a week, or I work 80 hours, 100 hours a week, they measure their productivity by the hours they spent. Whereas someone could actually spend 5 hours and do as much work as someone who spends 8 hours. And, obviously there's personal differences, but, getting away from this idea of bums on seats as a measure of productivity is probably one of the biggest things that can come out of this around getting stuff done and making people's work, life balance a lot more, a lot more of a good thing.
More productive. So that if
Yeah,
the work-life balance is there, they will be more productive. And what you're talking about there, I think, is bad management,
yeah,
because effectively, if you can't measure the productivity of your staff and you're only using a very poor index, which is, like you say, bums on seat hours, to measure that productivity, then can't really know which direction your business is going in, whether whether you are using the resources that are available to you properly. So if you're one of those managers that is like, well, I can't manage unless I in front of the people seeing what they're doing, then you're probably not doing your job very well because you're not using the right index for measuring whether they're doing their job properly or not.
yeah,
And it's possible even that having standing over people and watching them is not helping them be productive.
yeah.
Um, because
Because
people are
there's an impact from doing that as well.
yeah,
There's an impact from doing that as
yeah,
well, isn't there? So actually being, how many times has someone actually, been trying to show someone something and they're like, oh, I can't concentrate because you're over my shoulder.
yeah.
That actually has a negative impact in itself of that. But also, people say, well, I couldn't trust my staff if they were at home. I don't know what they'd be doing. Why are you hiring people you can't trust?
No,
I mean, when you're recruiting people, surely that's the process you go through. Is you think, well, I can trust these guys. I quite want to work with them. They'd be great. how come you all of a sudden think they're just going to slack off as soon as they go home? It's it's a poor sort of way of thinking about your own staff, isn't it? That you think that that's everyone's out to try and get you. When
Mm.
actually, if you've got a business where you've built a team where everyone wants to do well and wants the business to do well because they feel part of something, then that kind of culture means that you trust your staff and they trust you, and you don't need to have these concerns.
Look, I think that's a privilege. If you make working somewhere a privilege, where people are like, if I went somewhere else, I wouldn't have this, right?
Yeah,
But then that's what is conducive towards productivity and moving in that same direction because you want to preserve it. Like we have preservation instinct about your current situation, and that current situation is directly linked to the health of the company,
yeah,
right? Now, with other jobs, it's possible that if someone is easily replaceable, such as in some service jobs where people need very little training, it's more likely that both sides see each other as expendable. So you could,
yeah,
so the person who needs very little training for the job might go, I can drop this job because I've invested so little into getting the skills to do it, and the
yeah,
manager can be like, I can get rid of them because I can find someone else, another teenager who takes 10 minutes to train up. So I can see
yeah,
why in those situations there may be less trust because there is less investment on both sides of time and direction. So I can kind of understand why they might feel, oh, actually, I can't trust them to do it because if someone didn't need much training or anything like that, you can imagine that they wouldn't, if they had spent a day not doing their job and they lost their job, they might just go, I don't care,
yeah,
because I'll just go and get another one because I can walk into another job that doesn't need training. Now, depending on the situation, the health of the economy or the situation, there may be less or more of those jobs available for those
yeah,
people. So it changes the power dynamic, doesn't it? So
yeah,
if there are less jobs, even if they require less specialized in training, there's still more competition then for the job. So you can probably trust them to do it because they have more of a preservation instinct about their current job. Um, so I don't know. In this situation here now, with what's going to have an economic downturn after this pandemic, it may be that um, having less jobs and more competition for less skilled jobs does make remote working in those jobs easier because people will be more invested in maintaining those jobs, make sure they
yeah.
still have them.
Potentially, I
Potentially,
can see your point. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I'm hoping that the economic downturn is during the
yeah,
virus, and actually we could see,
oh,
obviously everyone emerging from this going, we want to, we want to, we're so sick of being stuck in. We want to go out and,
yeah,
get stuck in and do stuff. And we might hopefully see, some innovations coming out of this as well, that might hopefully lead to a boost in the economy. But yeah, I suppose the key thing from that is I like to see it from the manager's point of view is, if you feel like you haven't been investing much in your staff, so they themselves don't then want to return the good behavior back to you
mm,
in being loyal and stuff, well then maybe you should be investing a bit more in your staff.
mhm,
Maybe you should be spending a bit more time in making sure that they want to work in your business and treating them well, that they don't want to go somewhere else and they do want to do a good job for you, because it is like you say, if it's a reciprocal thing, it's not the staff member's fault if you're treating them badly.
mm,
If you treat your staff well, then maybe they would want to, they would want to stay with you. They would want to do a good job. And, I suppose one thing we are going to see with this virus is who are the good bosses, who are the ones who've been flexible, who are the ones who've tried everything to keep their staff on board, and who are the ones who've said either, you know, we're closing down, see you later, you're tough, you're out on your ear, and the ones who are forcing people to go in to do jobs that you know maybe are putting their staff in danger for the sake of their own economic gain.
mm,
So I think people may start looking at businesses with a bit of an ethical sort of dimension to their sort of questioning about who they want to deal with in the future, and how
mm,
people treat their staff is going to be a big part of that sort of discussion.
yeah. That's a good test.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah,
test of those attitudes, isn't it? Because a lot of
yeah,
companies pay lip service to like the family environment and things like that. But when it comes down to it, a good test of family is when hardship arrives and how they all
Yeah.
come together. So yeah, I think we'll see some interesting developments based on how some companies have behaved during this
Yeah.
lockdown.
Yeah.
Name it,
So
name.
if anyone's got any comments of they want to drop down below in the comment section about what we've been talking about remote working during the coronavirus and the lockdown, then please drop them below and we'll join you in the conversation there.
Yeah, and don't forget to click subscribe so you can see more of our discussions about our current lockdown and anything else technology related or productivity related.
Okay, and if you want to know more about what we do, and especially about the remote working collaboration tools that we develop, then check out swiftcase.co.uk and search for us on social media at SwiftCase UK for anything else. Okay, so thanks for listening to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Right.